Thanks for joining us. This is Notepad with me, Ibrahim, Sani. Fresh from the Merdeka celebrations, many of us actually went to various places, including that of Dataran Merdeka, to watch the various air shows there. And of course, here in Selangor, we are broadcasting this from Bukit Jalil in Selangor. And of course, we want to ensure that Selangor gets a piece of the action as well. This is because between the 8th until 10th of September this year, the Selangor Aviation Show 2022 will dawn upon us, to be held at the Sky Park Regional Aviation Centre, or Sky Park RAC. There's going to be a lot of held activities, including previously reported over 700 million worth of potential transactions to take place at this air show, with an expected turnout of over 8,000 visitors. There's plenty to unpack here. So joining us in the show, in the studio with me, is none other than Senior Exco of Selangor, Yang Berhormat Datuk Teng Chang Kim, the Exco for Industry Trade as well as Small Medium Industries. Datuk, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. There's a lot that needs to be unpacked. Perhaps let's do a recap into the previous Selangor air shows and what would be some of the distinct aviation elements that can be seen from this year's Selangor Aviation Show.
Of course, this year we will have more participants. Last year, because of the closure of the international borders, and therefore the number of companies and participants that they could able to attend is very much lesser. So this year, in terms of number of booths, we have increased by 43%, and we will have more varieties of aircraft to showcase, and of course we will have more programs for the public, not only for those industry players. So more activities will be for the public, for the students. We will have career path or talk, and also in terms of the numbers of exhibitors, it will be increased substantially. I think that is the interesting part, especially from the local.
I just want to do a quick recap, because previously we were quoted by the press saying that about 8,000 visitors are going to be expected to turn up, 70 booths from local and international companies. Are you still on track on these kind of numbers?
Yes, our target was 70 booths, and by now we have already 67, which is only 3 to go. And in terms of the visitors, we target at 8,000 visitors today. Today, by registration, is more than 4,000. And I believe for the next few days, it will be a very substantial increase of people registering. And this excludes those who have not registered, who has intention to come. And normally we will have more people
like
who
a
come.
walk-in.
Walk-in people will be more than that. Yes.
Definitely. I normally just walk up because the house is nearby. It's a fun-filled activity. Sometimes I bring my kids as well. And of course, the Selangor Aviation Show is co-hosted by Invest Selangor Berhad, as well as the aerospace division of it, including that of Selangor Aerospace Industry Coordination Office. Yes. And I want to see how the collaboration has been between you getting all these exhibitors in. Perhaps a slice and dice into the kind of exhibitors that is coming to the air show, including that of, say, for instance, international exhibitors as well as local exhibitors. What would be the mix would be like?
Of course, it will be increase of the participants from the local. And for the international player, we have big players like Astro Aviations, Embark, and especially these two. They are big players in the business aviations. And more local SMEs are coming in because now they see the opportunity and see the importance of this event. When we organized it last year, it was the first one, inaugural one. Some people in the industry were quite skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Would Selangor be able to organize an aviation show, which is the first in this region? And now with the success we have achieved last year, then it's actually built out the confidence of the participants. And we are quite glad that it has catch a lot of attention of the industry players.
Let's talk about the barometer to how you measure success following the last aviation show. Maybe you can share with us some number of transactions done, or the volume of it, or perhaps some business matching that has happened over the last event. Perhaps some takings from us to actually see how we crystallize the last aviation show.
All right. We look at the numbers of visitors. Last year, the first one, we managed to get 5,000 visitors. And this year, by now we have got 4,000 registered. So it is almost certain that we will exceed number, and we are looking at the targeted number of 8,000 people. And I strongly believe that we can achieve that number. Then in terms of the value of transactions, last year we managed to get 100 million, and we were quite excited to have that number. And based on the numbers, we have done some forecasts and so on, and based on the number of MOUs that has already certain to be signed during that period for this year, we have come up with an estimate of about 700 million, actually very close to 700 million, the target that we set.
It's amazing, and,
Yes.
and it hasn't even started, right?
Yes, right, exactly. So at present, what we have in hand is 9 MOUs is going to be signed. And this number has already exceeded the number of last year's. So next few days, we strongly believe that some are coming.
Let's talk about the brands involved, because people, when they talk about aviation show, I mean, if it's not Boeing or Airbus or any other guys, they don't normally see that kind of pizzazz in terms of aviation shows. What will be some of the mix of the brands, big and small, that you can share with us in terms of trying to bring color into the kind of people that are coming over at the Selangor Aviation Show?
For example, I have just mentioned about Astro Aviation,
Yes.
which is the world's second largest manufacturers of business jets. This is a big name. Embraer from Brazil. Last year, they were actually the star of the whole show because they brought in a beautiful, they call it the Well Hunter, which is a latest in the series. Then we have Precision Aviation Group from Singapore. This is also a major player in the manufacturing. And we also have Asia Security Technology Singapore. These are the international players. Whereas from the local, we have big names like Spirit Aero System. Spirit is the one which manufacture the wings for Airbus 320. We have Superb SS, we have Aerodyne. Aerodyne is world #1.
Yeah, drone operator.
Yeah, drone operators in terms of the AI system.
Yeah.
And we have BCES, we have APR, Sapura, Deviation. Deviation, latest development is that they have signed an MRO service for Honda Jet. They'll be here. They have Delta Aerospace and also Destiny Aviotechnic. These are the big names in the industry.
It certainly is. It's a rather impressive lineup, and considering that this is only the second time that Selangor is doing this.
Yes, right.
It's amazing. Okay, we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a bit more with YB Tang of the Selangor Aviation Show. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks for continuing on with us. I have with me in the studio Yang Berhormat Dato' Teng Chan Kim, the Exco for Industry and Trade of the Selangor Government. We're trying to understand a little bit better about the Selangor Aviation Show. Perhaps, Dato', you can share with us the theme for this year's Selangor Aviation Show, and perhaps why the theme was chosen.
The theme is the one and only business aviation show in the region, and it is true to its letter, because we have other big air show in this region. For example, Singapore Air Show, which actually focus on the business aviation, and we have big names like Lima, which focus on defense and military. Whereas this is the only show in this region that will look at the business aviations and also the general aviations. So when we're talking about business aviation, we are looking at business jet, private jets, small aircraft, drone, helicopters, and so on. Very different from the usual show that we've seen. For example, aviation, the commercial air show, where we see the normal aircraft, Airbus and Boeing. These are the major players. Whereas in the business aviation, we have many brands. As I mentioned just now, we have a Dassault, which is Falcon. Falcon, we have Embraer. We have other names like Piaggio Avante, Cessna, and of course Piper, and these are very different from what normally people knows, only Airbus and Boeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, right? Airbus and Boeing. But business jets is a whole new market by itself.
Yes.
Perhaps some unique aircraft that can be put on display and people can, the public go on it and see.
Yes.
And I've never been on a private jet before, so perhaps I also want to see what's inside of it.
Yep.
Is that even a possibility?
Yes, some of the private jets, especially from the companies, they may open for public to have a peep on what will be, a private jet look like. And it is very interesting. And of course, we also have programs like the Joyride, where people will have a chance to take on Cessna, four-seater, and have a feel of how if you can own, a small aircraft and for fun and for sport purposes. This will be really, really exciting aviation show.
There's the ability for us to understand some of the targets that you mentioned, including the 700 million possible transactions, the 9 MOUs that you say will be signed. Those are key targets for this year's Selangor Aviation Show. Perhaps maybe you can share with us the kind of expectations that is being set, particularly since countries around the world is opening up its borders, perhaps the kind of expectations of travel, especially business travel that you mentioned earlier. Do you think that there will be a spike in terms of how people move about for the coming months to come, as well as what do you think 2023 is going to shape up following this kind of reopening of borders?
Yeah. If you look at the situations of other countries, most of the borders has opened up, but there's one big market, which is China, and it is estimated that they may open up their borders for their citizens to travel overseas sometime in November or December. That certainly will be a big spike. My experience in visiting China and Japan in recent years has shown that most of these tourists were actually from China. So now they are all confined to their own country, and we can see that the whole market is just very slow. And
but at the same time, wouldn't this create pent-up demand the moment they reopen their borders? So they're going to come back like in a vengeance so that they can make up for the lost time?
Perhaps. We don't know what will happen, but when the biggest market in the world open up and allow the citizens to travel around, we can expect there will be a very substantial increase in the numbers of travelers and of course in the number of travelers. And looking at us pre-pandemic situation, we are one of the tourist attractions for this Asian market. And not only China, tourists from China, we have tourists from Korea and Japan, which will be able to travel very freely very soon. And therefore, this will of course bring more business in the tourism, and of course it will help directly to the development and growth of the aviation industry.
Okay, we spoke about some of the elements inside the aviation industry. We spoke about some of the key tenets and features of the Selangor Aviation Show, and perhaps look at the market as well. As you put it, the number one consumer market in the world. Once they open up, there's going to be a lot of requirements in terms of satisfying the demand. My follow-up question to this is that you were alluding to some other aviation shows, including that of Lima, which is the whole idea of how Langkawi is bringing the aviation show to the country. It's a big deal. It's been around for quite some time. There's also the Selangor Aviation Show, which the last I went was back in if I'm not mistaken, 2013 or 2015. By the way, that was one hell of a show because Airbus was doing a vertical takeoff. The entire Airbus 777, this is A350. I remember that vertical takeoff is just so scary, right? To think that a commercial aircraft can do that. There's also competitive air shows, including ones that are coming out in the market. How do you differentiate the Selangor Aviation Show from Lima, from the Singapore Air Show and many others? I know that you mentioned the business aviation element to it, but what would be the kind of differentiation factors that perhaps many of us might not see or overlook in terms of the differentiation factors of SAS versus Lima versus Singapore Air Show and many others?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Lima is only purely for defense and military. So it's totally very different from our air show on the BA and the GA. And commercial, as I mentioned, is very limited to the commercial airlines. Yeah. And the names are very limited.
Yeah.
Whereas there's
Airbus and Boeing.
Yeah, a lot of fun in the business aviations. And especially after the post-pandemic situations, more people, especially the rich businessmen, they are concerned about the safety. They will be actually prefer to travel with their own private jets, either their own or they can join those clubs having this time sharing scheme. And therefore, in fact, for the past 1 year, there has been an increase, a very substantial increase in the numbers of people taking private jet or chartered flight. And this will certainly help to stimulate the growth of business aviations. And therefore, people will expect this will attract more people to come and visit, to have a look, and those who can afford, and even sometimes even the corporate, those big company, MNC, would prefer to have their business jet or getting into themselves into this time sharing scheme. And with that, we can see the interest will increase.
Okay, that is a very important point, to connect with the kind of consumers out there and potential customers. Perhaps we can also explore the idea of making SAS into a regional or global player even. Because the focus of the Selangor Aviation Show has always been about general and business aviation, as you elucidated earlier, as well as helicopters. We want to understand a little bit better about how Invest Selangor is going to transform this and link it up with other major aviation players, not just in the country and around the region, perhaps globally as well, and transform the Selangor Aviation Show into a regional or a global aviation show. How do you think Invest Selangor is going to bridge this whole gap and make it bigger?
Yeah. What is lacking now is the platform. In this region, except for the Shanghai Aviation Show, we are the only ones which have this type of air show. And in this region, we are the only one, as I said, the one and the only. And we believe that this platform itself has become an international platform, although this is only our 2nd year. And by having this platform, we will be able to bring the players from various parts of the world to come and do the networking, and then from there they will find business opportunities and for the growth opportunities in their business.
Okay, fantastic. We have to go for a break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit better about how this ties up with the Selangor Aerospace Action Plan. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks for continuing on with us. I have with me YB Teng Chang Kim. He is talking about the Selangor Aviation Show, and perhaps it's about time that we talk about the whole Selangor Aerospace Action Plan 2020 to 2030. Dato', how does this complement the state's economy in terms of the Selangor Aviation Show, bridging that with the action plan of the Selangor Aerospace Plan?
Yeah. For Selangor, our main contributors to the GDP is from the service industry. And secondly is the manufacturing sector. So with the aero industry, where 63% of the national aerospace industry are actually in Selangor, we have to maintain that.
I did not know that, by the way.
Yes.
Okay.
This is actually a figure which is very important to us.
63% of the nationwide's aerospace business is in Selangor.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have to maintain that.
That's 2/3, yeah.
Yes, right. And we have a very important blueprint, the National Aerospace Industry Blueprint. It's a big blueprint. What Selangor has done is that from the blueprint, we focus on the sector that we are able to actually deepen the possibility of further developing our aerospace industry. And therefore, we have our own Selangor Aerospace Industry Action Plan. With the action plan, we have initiative and programs. And we make sure that we stick to the blueprint, of national blueprint, but at the same time, we develop our own to strengthen the sector that we have. So in this respect, what we have done is that we will make sure that there will be alignment and prioritizations of the infrastructure that we already have. We will identify the spaces and opportunities where we can further go for the quick wins. And then we also will promote the industry, especially the youth. They are the future.
Yeah.
And now our society is more affluent. We can get them actually to come into the sports in this industry.
Yep.
And then we're dealing also directly with the issue faced at the industry. So we have the special counsel to deal with all the problems, all the challenges faced by the industry players, so that will actually facilitate their business.
Okay.
And then we will ensure that all the plans are in line with the national blueprint. So with that, we are very certain.
So you marry the state intentions and intent with the federal government's intention.
This will actually provide a catalyst to the growth of our economy.
Okay. Let's talk about the impact that the first Selangor Aviation Show brought about in terms of upscaling the Selangor GDP. How does it tie up with the previous air show, and where do you think the kind of projections is going to come from to help Selangor GDP for following this particular air show this year?
Yeah, imagine, as I mentioned just now, the transactions, the value of transactions,
700 million targeted,
100 million increased by 7-fold.
Yeah.
Between just within a year.
Yeah.
So that's a good indications. If we have carry out all the strategies, all the initiative with proper strategies, we can even achieve further, because this is a very big industry, and we are only actually having the tips of the iceberg. So I believe that at the rate we are going, we will be able to create more opportunities for this industry.
There's also the final question I want to ask you, which is on how would the public get more information about this? How would trade exhibitors or folks in the commercial sector try to understand and leverage off this industry? What would be some of the messages that you can share with them in terms of both retail customers, people like me, for instance, who have no means or capacity to buy a private jet, but perhaps want to look at one, versus somebody from, say, Sapura, for instance, who are also already inside this aviation sector? Where do you feel the kind of element is, and perhaps some of the key points that they should think about? Both retail consumers as well as trade exhibitors or potential commercial prospecting partners.
There are a lot of things, to look at it. But I would say that they should visit our website. From there, it will lead to other channels. Go to our website, www.selangor.aviationshow.com, and that will be the main lead to look at others. In fact, during the show also we have various panel talk shows. We have even the Edu Open Day for the students, for the youth, to look at the career opportunities, and for the SME. And they are we have all the 3 days. It's full of programs for them to look into it. Especially the sessions, the seminar. And we have 3 sessions running concurrently. That were full of information for SME and for the players.
Okay, and perhaps even potential vendors or people thinking about trying to enter the aerospace industry. Do you think this is something for them as well?
Yes, and especially we are looking at the cross-sector business.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
For example, the relationship between aviations and tourism. Yes, with agriculture, because we're talking about drone, on surveillance, and so on. So we should look at that to expand the business opportunity, the cross sectors. Okay,
it's not just about the planes itself; it's about the other industries surrounding it.
Yes, the use of the aircraft for different purposes.
Okay, fantastic. There's still plenty more to unpack here. However, we've ran out of time. We're covering this Selangor Aviation Show quite extensively here on Astro AWANI. Do find out more on the Selangor Aviation Show. You just heard the website that was given by Datuk Teng earlier. You can also find out more about this on all our social platforms on astroawani.com. Just find out more about this information moving forward. Until then, thanks very much for watching. I have been speaking with Yang Berhormat Datuk Teng Changkim, the Exco Industry and Trade. We'll be continuing on with some of the programs here in Astro AWANI. Do stay with us until the next time. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.